Hello, I'm Hitoshi, chair of UCLA Architecture and Urban Design. Before I introduce today's lecture, I'd like to mention about two things. There's a lecture by Karo Igarashi on May 7th. And probably he doesn't, you don't know too much about him, but he is one of the probably most influential architecture critic from Japan, so he will probably talk about the current phenomena in the Japanese architecture, so please come to join us. And also, I don't know if you noticed that there's an exhibition preparation is going on, and that's an exhibition of the photograph of Kisho Kurokawa's capsule building in Tokyo, taken by Nobitaka Milano. And the opening reception will take place together with Karo Igarashi's lecture on May 7th. So please join us for this reception. Well, now it is my pleasure to introduce Pieter Bannenberg, our presenter tonight. Thank you. NL Architects is an Amsterdam-based office. There are three principals: Pieter Bannenberg, Pieter Bannenberg, and Kamiel Klaasse. Officially opened practice in January 1997, but had shared workspace already since the early 90s. All were educated at the Technical University in Delft. NL Architects aspire to catalyze urban life. The office is on a constant hunt to find alternative for way we live and work, how we can intensify the human interaction. In 2008, NL Architect won the Mies van der Rohe Emerging Architects Award. In 2010, NL Architect won the European Prize for Urban Space, and in 2011, they received first and second prize for the best housing block of Amsterdam. Their key projects include Groningen Forum in Groningen, and Basket Art in Utrecht, and Permanent Housing in Amsterdam. So please join me in welcoming Pieter Bannenberg.
Well, thank you very much for your invitation. I'm very proud to be here. We're already somewhere in the middle of the lecture with the slides to quickly go back to the beginning. So we're from NL Architects. NL, this is a car sticker that people from the Netherlands actually have on their car. This is the logo of our company. And the only addition that we did to this logo is the little dot that we added to the car sticker. Because we also enjoy the digital highway in those days. So it's actually typical for our work. We sort of, with a minor adjustments, try to completely change the meaning of things. This is the three partners that Hitoshi just mentioned in our favorite space, the model room. Looks like I'm building a model, but that's been a while ago since I actually did that. Mostly only look at them and decide. Today is a happy day, not just because I'm allowed to speak here, but because it's our Queen's birthday. This is our Queen, just to give you a little sense of the Netherlands being a monarchy, and we are very happy to celebrate her birthday. This is in the Amsterdam canals, where on Queen's Day everybody goes out in boats and we just drink beer, basically, to celebrate our monarchy. And I gotta show you some of our work, and there's a couple of themes in our work, and two of them is the remix that I'll explain later, and program. This is actually one of the other canals in Amsterdam, and with a small addition of the water. The canals used to be for transportation of goods, and now it's just water that you can have a party of, like you just saw. but why not turn it into, give it a new function. This, the first project I show is a vase we designed, sorry. We actually took 3 archetypes of vases where you can put different bouquets in, and we merged them together. And we, with this as a result. So it's one object, and we have 3 very cheap vases. You can buy them for $5 at the department store, and when you merge them together, they actually get 10 times more expensive. They're very difficult to make, but very beautiful, we think. Another project I kind of show a lot of projects in a very high pace. If you don't understand something, maybe you can just interrupt me if you like. Also because I speak a little bit funny English sometimes, because we speak English in the office actually, but with all mainland European people, so non-native speakers. And sometimes we make up words that don't exist, but we all understand it. So if I use one of those words, just ask me and I'll try to explain. This is an interesting project. This is the final project of Pieter and Kamiel in a university. And it's a shopping mall, an office building where you can drive and park on top. And this is in the middle of the center of Amsterdam. So it's a very interesting sculpture. It's sort of 1 kilometer long stripe that is folded up in the city center of Amsterdam. Later in our career, we got the assignment to make some 501 family houses in a new area close to Utrecht. And we try to actually use this idea again of driving and parking on top of the house. So if you have a typical extension in Holland for family housing, this is how it looks. It's completely based on the car. So you have a little street, you park on each side, and you have a little front garden, and then you have your row housing, and then in the back of the row house you have again a private garden. And we were basically asked to make this typology. And we thought that this is, you see the children are playing in the street, and there's practically no room for them. So we thought with the same density we could make a much better plan. So we said, why not park on top of the roof? You can still park on top of your own house, but you create a completely car-free environment to live and play. So we had, of course, have to make some calculations, and we calculated the clients that we, you see, left is the regular plan, and right is our plan, and we create 4% more houses to pay for the additional cost of the parking on top, and then we still save 26% of space that can be completely green. So we make completely green row housing with private gardens and parks between the houses. It was almost executed because it was completely viable, but then the crisis of 2001, there was a crisis in Holland, a housing crisis, came, and the client didn't dare to build it anymore. Unfortunately, we were hoping that the kids from these houses, when they go to kindergarten and they were asked to draw their house, that they would actually finally draw something else than the typical house. And then one of our most important projects is the Groningen Forum. Groningen Forum is a museum, library, conference room, restaurant, bar. It's actually what we call the living room of the city of Groningen. Groningen is all the way in the north of Holland, one of the most important cities of the northern part of the Netherlands. It's in the historical center of Groningen, right on the Grote Markt. And you see it's much higher than most buildings around it. To indicate the importance of the location is that the Grote Markt is actually on the Dutch monopoly map, so that means it's an important location. This is the model we built. I just mentioned it to Neil and Mary. That the general public got to vote which of the proposals could win, and we were given a wooden model by the city in which we could implement our model. And as the only competitors, we built in also a wooden model to make it fit into the surroundings, while all other architects came up with a white model. And so the general public voted for our proposal. I hope not just because of the fact that the model was wood, which is only a representation. You see the atrium, which I can talk about more later. So we had to make presentation for the general public. Kamiel was doing presentation and he was making a picture, like I just did. We always make picture of the rooms that we speak for. Everybody is laughing except for the other architects sitting in the front. There's Erik van Egeraat and Diel Arret, a quite famous Dutch architects, our competitors. Zaha Hadid was also competing. So we beat them all. I'm still happy about that, by the way. So the program is the core of the building is a library, and there's a lot of film, art film houses and museum and conference center around it. So we thought the whole building should be like a physical Wikipedia. So this is all the programs that is around the atrium. This is the auditorium. We have a museum. We have a cinema. And then there's a square on the ground floor. And the open spaces are all library, basically, but they're all called squares with a certain theme. So we have the culture and the youth square, the history square, the cinema square, and all squares together actually make the whole library, connecting all the other programs. This is the model that we built at the time. It looks extremely complex if you take off the facade, but it's actually, well, the geometry is quite complex, but the building is in a way quite simple. So the atrium, we were asked to make a program that that would connect all the different programs of the building, but there was very little space on the site, so we had to actually invent a new way to connect those things that you would normally do in a plane, in a flat surface. So we made the atrium, and we actually made this atrium the image of the building and connecting part of the space that would connect all the programs. And at night the atrium would serve as a logo for the building. Here you see this atrium. So all these spaces that are open is library. So everybody can walk in without a ticket and enjoy this space. And then from there you go to the cinema or to the museum. That is actually ticketed. Here we won the competition, so we could keep everything white again. So this is the plot. This is the maximum extruded plot, maximum envelope. We taper it to the top to bring the light in the surroundings. And we slice off some parts to create entrances. And we slice off some more to bring even more light in. We did some sun studies, and there's all small houses around it, so we didn't want to put them in the shadow. And then you come up with this building. And actually, from every side, the building looks completely different. So it can look like a very huge building, or it can look like a small, very slender tower, depending on where you see it. And of course, we had to make again calculations to fit in the rules. So the maximum height of the building was 45 meters, and the average height, that was the zoning law, had to be 33 meters. But our building is, the total height is completely 45 meters, so the maximum height. But we cut off, we calculated all the pieces, we cut off from the original extrusion, and then we calculated that actually the average height was 31.4 meters. And well, we got away with it. This is how you see it later from the photomark. Last week the contractor was chosen, so in the next couple of months we're going to start building, and the building is going to be finished in 2017. But what it didn't show on the presentation is that it has a very big basement with parking lot going down 20 meters, which is a big job in Holland because there's water everywhere. And, so that's alone, the basement is going to take 2 years to build. So the next project is Fune. That's the rewarded housing block we did in Amsterdam. We designed it in 1999. It was one of our first housing projects, and it got executed in 2010, 1 year ago now. And this is the end result. Location is in Amsterdam. This is the old harbor that is completely converted into housing area. This is a little industrial zone that now is created into the housing area. Right here is the location of the building. There's a master plan or urban plan by Architect C. They make what they call the hidden lights, the little villas in green with a big wall around it to block the noise of the trains around it. So the given brief was that we had to make 10 dwellings with this profile, so 2.5 stories, or 2 stories plus a half story, and make a roof terrace. And we cut them up in 10, but we said that's not such an exciting volume, so we make 2.5 floors and completely flat, and then we start moving it around. So we chop it up in 10. We actually push the roof down. Where there's the next door blocks are close, and we pull up the roof where there's space in the urban plan, because it's quite a narrow and dense urban plan. And we have this inner street where the houses have their entrances. We switched it from an open space to another open space. So all houses have exactly the same volume, but they all have completely different bay width and different floor plan. And it is the end result of the inner model. You see here that we have the inner street is connecting 2 open spaces, and the shape of the roof is bringing light into the urban plan. So actually we found out later that making 10 different floor plans in a little block is very labor intensive, especially because halfway all the building code changed, so we had to redo the whole thing again. But they were quite exciting houses. They were actually built in the crisis, but still all sold because they're quite unique housing. Here you have the model. This is one house. This one missing, and another house to show you. And so there are different floor plans, and they all have a patio in the roof. We slice it up, so here you see this patio bringing light in the deeper houses, in deep dwellings. So the change from very deep and low into very high and narrow. Here you see a picture of the inner street connecting 2 open spaces. This is one of the patios. This is our office visiting the building when it was finished. Luckily, it has a very poor interior when we delivered it, but all people hired an interior architect to make very beautiful interiors. It's just the standard of the way we finish housing in Holland. It's very poor as a standard, and everybody is making their own nice house out of it later. Here you see the patio in the middle of the living room. And the roof, which is quite unique in Holland because everything is flat, and this almost feels like you're in a little mountain area when you're in patio on the roof. Happy owner. The roof is getting more and more green, and sometimes very white. This is actually a very unique area because there's completely car free. So you park under the big building next door, and then you walk to your house. You see everybody has a bike. And the children just run outside without being afraid of cars. It's a very nice living environment. Apart from the building, that's a very important quality of living here. Next project is social housing in Groningen. This is the project. It's another competition that we won. It's senior citizen housing and with kindergarten downstairs. So we stack up different housing types, and actually we use the balconies to sort of smooth out the volume, because it's built in a very cheap way. This is the area where it's in. This is considered very unpopular kind of housing typology. This the gallery flat, and in a way we do the same, except it's not a gallery but a balcony. But we try to sort of show that this rigidness of this gallery. When you adjust it a little bit, it could actually be very attractive type. So this is the original volume given by the urbanist. It's really not working for this. Another one of this. So we actually changed the basic volume. Right? Make it more slender and make the extension lower, and again taper it to the top to bring in light for the surroundings. You see that there's very small houses next to it, very small one-family houses. So we didn't want to obstruct the light coming down. So this is the stacking of the types, and then we smooth it out with the balconies, and then we start cutting and shifting the balconies to make an interesting pattern and to give everybody a balcony that is not on top of the next balcony, shifted, so you always have sunlight. So the other balcony on top of you does not block the sunlight. And you'll see how we shifted that in the system. So this is actually very luxurious social housing. For older people that have like a big 3-room apartment. It's also especially catered to disabled people. So this is everybody has a big balcony and a sort of smaller balcony just for the window washing. But it's wrapped all around. This is the north facade. It's completely straight and plain. This is always done with extremely low budget. So in a way it shows. But at the same time, we're still quite proud of achieving so much. All the money basically went to the balconies. It's very, very small budget that we have to build this for. That gives some interesting pictures. This is the Loop House. Is a house that we built in Korea, South Korea. It's in a hairy art valley. I don't know if you ever heard about it. In Korea, they have the tendency to build new cities and villages with themes. So this is the art village, and you have the book city. And in this village, only artists are allowed to make their house, and they have to open their house up once a year for a festival, where the general public can come and look at some art presentations and look at the houses. Here, the main theme was that there was very restricted urban planning, zoning law, and so the form follows the friction in this case. This is a movie, Old Boy, and we were our client was the music composer of this movie and many other Korean movies. This is our client on top of his finished house. You see how well it blends in. Next. And even in every season, the roof changed according to the surroundings. So the total house we were allowed to build for tax reasons was 330 square meter, and the yard then is 135. So this is the zoning law. You have to build a house in front of the plot, and in the back she has to make a backyard. Everybody has to follow the same rule. And we wanted to, this client of ours is always working at home. He's making music, listening to a lot of music, to create music for his movies. So we thought it would be much nicer for him to be able to walk around his garden, especially in the climate in South Korea. It's very cold in winter and very hot in summer. So actually, you have your garden in the middle and just be able to look at it is much better than to actually use it and sit in it. So we wanted to create this patio house, but here we were not allowed to build. So we thought we just push the house underground there. And this is what would have been the shed, so we were allowed to build 10% outside the pitch. And this is just where it's allowed to build. So this is in the end the shape, so this part is considered underground, this is underground, and this is the 10%. So we actually, forced by this zoning, created a very interesting patio type that is not a flat patio, but actually patio that is changing levels, which with a big advantage is that actually there's a patio, but you still have a view over your own house looking outside to the mountains. These are the floor plans. You see the shape is not straight, so you start with this patio, but then you find out that different function, like the living room is bigger size than the bathroom and the kitchen and the bedrooms, so the size of the patio actually follows the function that is behind it. This is the view from the front door. And this is the patio, glass inside. So you see the different levels. And here you get to the living room that is actually looking out over the roof in the back. It's the front door we designed. But we sent them a computer file for them to automatically sort of produce this. But in the end, there was one guy with a drill that looked at the drawing very closely and made all the holes. That was 5 years ago. Very pleasant place to live, especially in the season where the pictures are taken. Then we have something completely different. This is a competition for bridge. It's actually a crossing facility from Hong Kong to mainland China. And my wife is from Hong Kong, so I always like to build something there, and that's why we keep doing competitions there. But we always sort of play around with the competition rules, and that's probably why we never win. So this is the final result. This is the location, so this is the International Airport of Hong Kong, and they make like a crossing here for cars and buses to go to with a new bridge, the longest bridge of the world, I believe, going to China. And they give you, the competition was to make a nice roof over these facilities, because this is the layout of the facilities, and it's so complex that the only thing architect could do is to try to make a roof on top of this floor plan. And one of the complexities is that you also change from the left hand traffic in Hong Kong to the right traffic in China. So that gives a lot of extra streets to organize that. So we thought it could be done differently and maybe more efficient. So we analyzed the program. You have the cars, you have the buses, and you need to change from left to right driving. And we thought we just separate them in different islands. So we have one island for cars, one island for buses, and one checkpoint. And this, we thought we should celebrate the moment of driving, changing from left to right. So we designed a special bridge where you actually start on the right side and you end up on the left side. And then hopefully somewhere in the middle you're aware of the fact that you changed lane. Well, normally there's only a little sign that has a sort of funny cross on it, and it's sort of indicating that you, from then on, you have to drive on the other side of the street. At least this is a little bit more like a celebration. and we didn't win. This is another small project. We do very big projects. I will also show you later a much bigger project, but we love to do small projects because they're much faster and so many times also less hassle, more fun. This is a little installation, I would almost call it, for the harbor of Amsterdam. The harbor of Amsterdam is not so successful because the Rotterdam harbor is very successful. That's why the Amsterdam harbor is so successful. And they sort of try to turn the harbor area into more a creative industry area and housing area and stuff like that. And in order to promote it, because it's sort of no-go zone, they want to build this installation to make organize festivals and fashion shows and theater and films. So this is the location. Here, you can see that because this one's not done yet. Right there is the location. So it's really in the middle of the water. It's actually a beautiful view. A lot of big boats going around. So they want to have 3 programs, maybe something with theater and maybe something with film. And there's a lot of fashion industry already settled down in the harbor area, so they want to be able to have a catwalk to do fashion shows. And we combined them all together. But of course, every time you use a different function, so we thought it would be very nice if it actually could turn. It can always be in the most perfect position. So one time you have different views. It's somewhere in between the boat and a harbor crane. And it can be turned. So we built very soon. And it appears to be very complicated. If you make the shape and you just fix it, it's very simple. And as soon as you want to make it turn, all the normal contractors start to panic a little bit. But really nice. Yeah, it's actually almost like a crane platform. So it's sort of a big circle with very heavy wheels. In this case, it's all steel. And they have these little electric cars, and they actually have to sort of pull it around. It's very low tech in a way, the way we made it. We thought it would be nice if it would be turning during some show, but there's a lot of rules and regulations that don't allow that. Maybe when you put it in Disneyland, it could work. And there's another project, the gym hall in Utrecht. It's a sports hall completely dedicated to gymnastics. Problem with most sports hall facilities is that they're very cheap and boring boxes without any expression or light. We thought we really wanted to bring light into the sports hall, but when you do gymnastics and you do all kind of complicated saltos and other things, you cannot have the lights changing a lot. So we had to come up with an idea that you really have a sort of indirect dim light coming in. So what we did is that we just, the normal facade, we just pull out a little bit so the light would come in via the roof. So this is the volume, and we just pull out the facade a little bit so the light can come in. And it's funny because that's really the basic and only idea about this building. It's a very simple building with a big floor for gymnastics and some changing rooms. And a little stand on top of the changing rooms for the public. This is the renderings we made to show the client that the light would be okay. Because they were a little scared about it. And this is the end result. And actually it has even more than we expected, a really completely sort of divine light coming in. Really very special atmosphere, but not disturbing at all for the sports people. During the opening. You see that a very small, simple addition can make this very cheap steel box into something still quite attractive. It's very simple. The only thing is that the glue of the big room is sort of bleeding into the changing room. Even the disabled are very sportive in this place. This is how it's built. As you can see, it's just a standard steel shed. Only the corners are a little bit more complicated. But still, with the basic material, that's very cheap. Still make it very nice. This is the entrance. Another small project that we did is the entrance building for industrial area. On top there's a lot of computers that sort of regulate the safety in this area, so they have to be maintained. So there's an alteration of an existing building. And we are always very interested by reflection. And also some early works, we always try to make this kind of facades for building. And we finally had the chance to use something like that. So this is existing building with computers and machines up there. And basically, this is the location. This is kind of work that is being done in there, so the guy checking the safety of the area. We just basically suggested we chop off everything that could be possibly chopped off this building without touching the installations. And then make a new box around it that would be nicer and more attractive. This is the old floor plan, and this is the new floor plan. So it's just a sort of doorman and some facilities, toilets for truck drivers. That's how we changed it into a very simple box. This is a mock-up for the reflecting material. It's a black reflecting foil by 3M. So it has many phases. So if you it's black in the day, and if you light it at night, it's completely yellow, white, orange. So this is what was left of the building. We just make it stand up still. It's really completely just chopped off the way we wanted it, and now we put the new box around it. These are very small projects and they're nice and fast. They can be created from start to beginning in about half a year or something, which is fast in architecture. And still have sort of nice result. Hitoshi, our project leader, very proud, showing the different phases of the building. You can also see project text on it. Next project is office building in Hengelo. Hengelo is in the east of the Netherlands. That is famous for industries that are there. And Siemens has big factories there to make big machines, so not consumer goods, but the oil platform machinery and stuff like that. And they're trying to make a completely new city there. This is the central station, this is the center of Hengelo, and right on the other side of the central station there is this big industrial area that is actually only big sheds. And now they try to turn it into a little bit more attractive. They want to make a World Trade Center here, which I think is a little bit vain for Hengelo to think that they could have a World Trade Center. They're still trying. But Siemens would have their European or Dutch headquarters here of the machinery shops. So this is the floor plan. The only addition that we did is to turn it, because this is actually quite a nice industrial building. And we will show a little bit more this building to it. This is the result. So when we went to look there, this is all the factories behind it, and what you see is that all of this the shed roofs But if you walk on street level there, you don't experience that at all. So you actually see big walls, but you can hardly see that there's no sheds. So we took this sheds as our inspiration. And you see it's really very typical for this area. So we thought if you want to represent this area towards the city when you come out of the central station, how could you do that? Maybe we should just put it up so you can actually see the shed roofs and turn it into a facade. And that's basically what we did. So there's another advantage to making the facade slanted, is that it actually gives you a great view. So all the buildings that need to have a good view looking down, they actually have all this tilted glass facades. And even here, this in Shopping Street, the guys like to look down. They make the window in a way that you can look down easily. Next project is Kameleon. It's a very big project. It's actually one of the sort of very commercial projects that we do. It's in the Bijlmermeer. Bijlmermeer is a post-war area where they built very big flats that soon turned into kind of a ghetto. So basically they're breaking most of those flats down, although they're quite beautiful and very interesting ideology behind it. They want to break it down, and most of those flats are replaced by low-rise buildings, one-family houses again, which all is completely full of. But some areas, the urban people, the urban designers of this area still want to have some serious big blocks. This is one of them, and we designed it. So this is the local shopping center of about 15,000 square meter with parking on top, and then houses, apartments on top. That were designed to be buying apartments, and halfway 2008 the crisis was so strong that they now turn into social housing. The client is a housing company, so they do both social housing as they do commercial housing. So the expression of this, the urban designer is a quite famous urban designer that do a lot of extensions in Amsterdam, but a sort of Brazilian feel to this blocks, because the people living there are really from all over the world, so he wants something a little bit Brazilian. So no, we tried hard. This is the block. So there's a metro line. There's one metro line in Amsterdam, and that's it. We're currently at the moment making a new one, but this is for now the only line that is going to this new area, new extension. And we actually, this is our location right in front of the station. There's the metro station. It's elevated. We have this building, and there's the big hall. So if you're in the inner port of this building, you're right on the same level as the platform of the train station. This is the model we built. On one side it's a long wall, and on the other side we cut it up because this is a green yard. And this, where the sun is coming from, so to give light to the inner court, we break up the block. This is the shopping area. And there's parking on top, which on the edge is also supermarkets on the parking level. And then we built this garden on top of the parking. It even has like a water stream in it to make again the houses attractive. You should mention that this area is not very popular to live yet, so you really have to bring in some quality to make people wanna live here. So it's all simple 90 square meters, so it's about 900 square foot apartments. Basically all the same And then the tower has some different, more luxurious typologies. You see entry salt. You see that the waterway is already there. This will be all green with trees. You see smaller galleries that are broken down with some stairs to really make these people feel that they can access this mutual garden very easily. I think that we try to use very friendly colors, very light, to enhance this Brazilian feel. You see that you're right on top of the level. Okay. This is our very first building. Dit is Bos 8, it's a heat transfer station. So this heat from the local power plant is brought here to turn it into hot water for about 20,000 houses, dwellings in the surrounding. And we were only asked to design a box around this machine. So it's a very expensive machine with a lot of infrastructure. It cost a lot, so we could just make a nice box going around it. And so we were only asked to design the skin, which we took kind of literal because we have completely seamless building with a skin polyurethane that is sprayed on site. There's no traditional building detail in there to keep the water out. We only were allowed to make one window. We thought, well, then we make one window that you actually have to throw a ball against, because later it's going to be in the middle of a residential area, and these kind of buildings are always being vandalized by kids from the neighborhood. So we try to make it more attractive. So we make this climbing wall, and actually this climbing wall spells a text in Braille. We never tell what text it is, so you have to find out yourself. Actually, the neighbor next door was making a competition, but she could not find too many blind people that could climb well enough to read the text. It's going very fast. This is the short version of all these projects. I'm sorry. Basketball is one of our most famous projects, actually. It's the second project we did. It's in the Uithof, which is the University of Utrecht campus. The urban plan is by Rem Koolhaas, and we were asked to build a bar, because for the first time there were all kind of laboratory in the neighborhood that made it impossible to live there, but they removed the laboratory. So then there was student housing coming, and of course students need a bar, and we were asked to design it. And we were asked to design a two-story building in front of this bookshop. We thought it was a little bit pity and silly to build something right in front of this bookstore. So we actually did something else. So this is the bookstore, and we just extended it with the same kind of architecture. So we sort of stole the architecture of this building and make it the same. But then we got this really big flat roof very close to this open squares. So then we figured that we have to make the roof public and make it an additional square. Of course, apart from the bar, they also need some spaces where they can play some basketball or do some leisure. So this is a completely public roof on top of the bar, and the floor height of the ceiling was too low to make a sort of serious grand cafe, what they wanted, so we had to lower it, and all spaces need to be accessible for disabled, for wheelchairs and disabled people, so we actually make this disabled ramp into sort of art piece and sort of bowl where you can also sit at night. Another building is Sportgebouw, and all this kind of buildings is, I showed some themes, I did not elaborate on it much, but all these buildings and designs have in common that we add something to the Ask program. So we always, when we get an assignment, we look at the program and see what is it that we can add to the actual brief or to the program to make it more interesting, or to make this building communicate more with its surroundings. So in the case of the basketball is that we added this basketball field on top that was not part of the brief. And in the sportgebouw is something else. So what we did here is, it's a big sports hall in the back, which would be very boring facade. And we suggested to add a climbing center, so you can climb inside here. Very popular sport in Holland, to make the building more attractive, and also this will light up at night. You see people climbing all the way up there. So we added program to make the building more interesting and to make it interact more with its surroundings. So this is actually the given brief, so we have to make 8 sports halls. And we stack them up, and we just have a simple box, and we put the climbing hole in front of it. This is how we expected it to look, and this is how it came out. This is what we show the client, how it's going to look. You see here that this is just very anonymous box. We try to only make the inside as attractive as possible. This changing rooms and levels. And this is the climbing center. We even designed, so there are 8 halls stacked on top of each other, and they're used by different schools. So they sort of, before every school would have its own little gym, and now they have a whole area with schools, and they make one very big gym, actually to have better facilities for the kids. But it's still a little bit complicated to find the room where you have to go to for certain classes. So we have designed a wayfinding system based on Olympic colors, of course. So you can just follow the red line to go to the location where you have your gym class. This is how it's being used every day. Basically, you see that the Dutch kids, when they do sports, they sort of play. And they just do games. They can wear whatever they want. So this is the image we made, and this is now how it looks. It's not completely finished yet, that's why we cannot have a picture in use with people hanging up here. It would be more spectacular to look at. And on the other side of this sports hall, there's a little building again that they asked us to do, which is like the information center of this school area. We designed a little stand where you can also do skating. So it's an elevated skating ball with the information center underneath. And you can sit down in the building. Across has a big video screen. You can watch information and movies there. This is a simple building. So in sort of similar fashion, we were asked to make a bike pavilion in China. China biking is getting very popular again as a sort of a leisure sports. So this is in the new housing area bike pavilion where you can rent a bike and have a drink. We thought that on top of the bike pavilion, we can have a sort of cycling arena as a roof, to enhance again this idea of the function, communicate the function of bike pavilion. We also designed those kind of blocks. That's sort of new hobbies of ours, doing this kind of big projects in China. Something completely different is the flower power. We, a couple of years ago, we were asked by the Dutch government to look into windmills for creating power. of course, there's a target of the government that they will have like 20% of energy as to be created by wind in 2020. But nobody wants to have a windmill in his backyard because they think it's ugly and it makes a lot of noise. So there are several designers to make a proposal that would make people accept windmills. So we just make them very simple in a way, very romantic again. So maybe people will start to appreciate how it looks. This is one of the versions. Actually, they're not as big as the normal windmills, but they can be used in much closer next to houses. So we have different types. Actually, it's we publish this on the internet, and people call us all the time if they can buy one. But it's not a product yet, and this is a standard product, so it's actually quite easy to make. But it's just the result of this windmills is quite small, so you will never make back the money that you spend for it. It's more like symbolic. We're trying to make a prototype anyway at the moment. At least our model prototype works. Just a little bit of wind. And from this, we thought we can also do this on a larger scale. So this is a competition for Taiwan Tower, close to Taipei. And because we can make a crossover between the Eiffel Tower, because they want to have an icon and a windmill, and make a power tower. So it's a steel structure that's completely filled with those wind wheels, and will generate. Well, this actually could work and generate a lot of energy, at least enough energy to give enough energy for the use of the building itself. And in the top there's the information center for the building department of Taipei. And that's it. Any questions? Yeah. Yeah. Any questions? All going very fast, I don't know.
Well, it's a really nice presentation, and I was curious when you talked about your residential projects, and you explicitly talked about the division between traffic and the residential and the environment. But at the same time, I'm getting the impression that you use traffic as a generative material in your practice. So I'm kind of curious about how you think about the relationship between architecture and the traffic.
How we feel about it, and the projects we show that with the parking on the roofs and to actually make cars more visible is a very strong reaction on the sort of movement that you had in the 80s and 90s, that urban planners and architects sort of deny the existence of the car. People, especially the left-wing governments of cities, try to push the car out of the urban areas. You cannot go inside anymore. You cannot park anymore. You should have to take public transport, which is very limited. And we acknowledge, if you look at those housing areas that are being planned, they're actually completely catered to car. Everybody wants to park in front of their own door, and everybody has a car to go to work. So instead of trying to ignore that notion, we think it's much better to make a nice and beautiful solution for dealing with cars. Because we think that driving a car up the roof and a view is still very nice and okay, and everybody should be able to do that. So at the same time, we're completely pro clean thinking, so we try to be very sustainable, but you should not ignore the existence of the car for the next 20-30 years, and keep them the place in architecture and urbanism that should happen. So the deal with the issue. That is basically what we try to show here. And the project of the inner city, where we make a building that you can actually drive on top, is actually quite provoking. But it's provoking against political movements, the Green Party in Amsterdam, that is sort of taking the life out of the city by blocking any kind of transportation. And that we're against, because we want Amsterdam, even though it's a historic city, to be very much alive. And transport is a very vital part of a life city. Is that answering somehow your question? Or not at all?
Thanks. That was great, and it's good. It's good for, let's say, our scene to hear a lecture that's so straightforward and not, on the one hand, clouded with a kind of problematic hypothesis and so forth. On the other hand, we always miss that when it's not present. So it's kind of shocking in its straightforwardness. I couldn't help think, though, that you were like a magician asking me to look at your left hand, and meanwhile your right hand was doing something that you didn't talk about. In other words, here's the hand of functionalism, and this hand is the hand of formalism, but you didn't talk about that hand because it could only be looked at over here. And, there's a variety of projects where the specific technique to resolve the response to the improvement of the program, of course, results in kind of enhanced formalism. I didn't see a project where it worked better, but it was uglier. It always magically worked better and was more beautiful at the same time. Could I get you to just come out a little bit of the closet a little bit and talk about that?
I get your point. But the thing is that the way I talk about the projects now is the way we talk about the projects in the office. So it's very completely straightforward, and we don't make up big theories, but we do the whole programmatic part, the analyzing the program and getting inspiration from that is it's something we talk about all the time. But the actual giving shape and giving form, that is a completely intuitive process in our office. That is just being done by making thousands of models, and in the end we sit around and choose the one that we find is most beautiful. So the awareness of the actual creating form and the shape and making things beautiful is completely intuitive, and that's why I cannot talk about it, because I don't know how it happens.
There, just to talk about one specific thing, there was a moment in the gym when you talked about it almost as though, because the light was hidden, that it had this kind of sublime quality. Of course, you could have just put a continuous skylight within the profile of the box, right, and let the light around the perimeter. So when somebody comes up with a scheme to slump, the wall on the outside, on the one hand, I've got to believe that one of you walks up and says it's too complicated. Why would you not just put the skylight? And the other person says it's more beautiful because it's going to make the light have a different type of halo. And
That's exactly what happened.
That's
Sorry to disappoint you.
Any other question? Okay, great. Thank you. Please give another round of applause.